Lost Cities. This is the newest book of the Keeper of the Lost Cities series, which is 8.5, since it's between books 8 and 9. The Keeper of the Lost Cities series is by Shannon Messenger. The Keeper of the Lost Cities series is about a girl who lived in a normal human world until one day she met a boy. This boy looked perfect in every way, and he brought her to another world through a crystal. She later learns that she is an elf, and the result of a genetic experiment in the elves. She has many different abilities, including teleportation and the ability to transfer thoughts through minds. Rebecca can tell us about elven abilities and their customs.
So, first of all, the girl's name is Sophie, and the boy's name is Fitz. And so, there's lots of elven abilities. Most elves are born with one ability, but some are born with none and some are born with two. And it's very unlikely, almost impossible, to be born with more than two abilities. The only reason that Sophie has more than two abilities was that she was experimented on. So there is a guster, which can control wind, and a pyrokinetic, which can control fire, and also
hydrokinetic,
which can control water. And there's also froster, which can control snow and cold things, but not just those. There's a phaser who can go through walls and go through objects and stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot more interesting different types of abilities, but it'll take a long time for us to go into detail for all of them.
Yeah.
So now Rebecca can I'll tell you about the elven world and how they act. So elves start with a birth fund, which pretty much covers for all their life's expenses. Elves pretty much live on for forever. No elf has died from old age.
And the older they are, the pointier their ears.
Yeah. So pointed ears are a way to tell if they're an ancient, right? Is that what it's called?
Ancients are really, really old people.
Yeah, they're really, really old people. And so elves still work as just so they can do things. They don't need to because they can afford everything, but they want to. And so Sophie is taken in by a family of elves who had lost their daughter earlier. Sophie later learns that the group who experimented on her is called the Black Swan. And she's the Moonlark. She's called a Moonlark. And there's an enemy organization called the Neverseen. And the plot of this book series is about how she tries to thwart the Neverseen. You can tell us more about the two groups.
So, the Black Swan is actually pretty small. It's not that small, but a lot of people who Sophie knows are actually in the Neverseen. I mean, the Black Swan.
Yeah.
But at first, the Elven Council, basically the government, thought the Black Swan were the bad guys. But then Sophie realizes that they're actually the good guys. And the Neverseen is very, very good.
Very, very good at what they do.
Yes. A lot of times Sophie and her friends lose.
Yeah.
So I guess Lucas will tell you about her friends.
So she has a few main friends. Fitz, Keith, Dex, Biana, Tam. Oh, what's the girl's name again?
What girl's name? Oh, Lynn.
Yeah, Lynn. And yeah, I think that's it too. So those are all her friends, her main friends. So Fitz and Biana are siblings, and they are in a family called the Vacker family, and they have a very good reputation, and they're very famous.
They're very good looking.
Yes. They're kind of like celebrities, So, Fitz and Sophie are cognates, which means they telepathically work together, and, so there's also Fitz, let me tell you more about him first. His only ability is telepathy, but he's really good at it. And he and Sophie can heal broken minds together. Broken minds are when elves are emotionally overwhelmed. They stop doing anything. And Biana, Fitz's sister, is what was her ability again? She was a vanisher, which means she can disappear and reappear at will. And so she's really beautiful, but then she got scarred in a battle. And basically at first she was afraid of the scars and didn't want to show them. Then she got proud of them. Basically all her friends are proud of getting hurt by the Neverseen and trying to help Sophie. And Sophie doesn't want them to get hurt, so she doesn't like it. And Fitz has a crush on Sophie too. And so does Keith. Keith is another character who's very funny, and he's very mischievous. He does a lot of pranks.
And he likes detention.
Yeah, he likes detention. He doesn't like it, but he likes being sentenced to detention, being punished as detention. He wants to have the biggest detention record in the school. So, his ability is an empath, but later in the series, he gets kind of messed with by his mother. But we're not going to tell you too much about that, since we want you to read about it yourself. And then Dex is a technopath. He's really good with tech. And he can make cool mechanisms, but sometimes he doesn't figure out what he's making it for before he makes it. Like one time he made an ability restrictor for the council, the elven government, but they used it on Sophie, and he was really regretful for the rest after that. So he decided to figure out what his items were being used for after that. And then there's also Dex used to have a crush on Sophie, but then it ended after an awkward scene, which you can read about when you read the series. And Tam and Lynn are siblings, and their parents weren't very nice to them, and they don't like their parents. And Lynn is a hydropath. She's the girl of many floods. Hydrokinetic, yes. She's the girl of many floods because she accidentally caused a big flood that flooded an Elven city. So, because she didn't know how to control her abilities very well. So, she was banished to, what's the other one called?
Exilium?
Yeah, Exilium. And Tam wasn't banished, but he decided to go with his sister too. And his ability is a shade, which means he can control shadows.
He also melted his resistant pet.
That part isn't that important. What else is there? I think that's it for all the important things that you need to know.
Foxfire.
Oh yeah, Foxfire. Rebecca can tell you about the two schools of the Elven world.
So Foxfire is a very elite school.
It's the only good school because
There's only two schools. So Foxfire, in Foxfire, it's kind of like our normal schools. There's classics, except they're way different. So, for example, it's based on the ability.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an ability yet, you go through all sorts of ability tests, and
Yeah, ability.
they're not very fun.
They try to trigger your abilities.
Yeah, but some example of a class that mostly everyone has is alchemy. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's where you brew potions.
Yeah. And then so they have like grades, except they call it levels. So for example, the first level is
It's kind of like in a video game. If you get good enough to advance, you advance.
I don't remember the first level, but I remember the last two levels. They're kind of like you can have a master's degree and stuff and like a doctorate degree. You don't have to.
It's like college.
Yeah. And so they're the unicorn and I don't know. They're gold and silver, so those are like the fancy elite levels.
Yeah, and then there's also the other school, right? Exilium, yes.
So it's kind of the school where you go to if you don't make it to Foxfire.
Yeah.
It's
So Foxfire is if you're really good, and Exilium is supposedly if you're really bad, but if you're like mediocre and you're not good enough for Foxfire, you have to go to the school for the really bad people.
or if you're Spanish.
Yeah.
Like
If you're-
Tim and Lynn, they actually have a lot of talent. So first of all, Exilium would be a good school. It just didn't get enough money, so they have to be like really strict and stuff.
Yeah. So they're mostly focused around basic abilities, which is actually very good.
So
I can tell you more about why. Basic abilities are where elves folk can do things such as stay still and not move for a very long time, for days if they're really good at it. And they don't have to eat for a long time.
They can control their body
Yeah,
temperature.
they can control their body temperatures too. But Foxfire doesn't really focus on that. But they've started to more after they've learned that the Never-Seen's agents are all really good at these basic abilities. And with these abilities, they were able to cause chaos.
And also, there's another thing I'd like to tell you about. It's the healing center. So there's this guy named Elwyn. He is a healer, and Lucas will tell us more about that.
So Elwyn is Foxfire's healer. Well, not only Foxfire's, just the healer, right?
I don't know.
I
He works at Fox.
Yeah, he works at Foxfire, so I'm pretty sure he's just the Foxfire's healer, but everyone goes to him if they need healing. So, he has a pet banshee, which shrieks if someone's close to death, and when Sophie's there, it shrieks a lot. Sophie gets injured a lot. And Sophie visits there a lot because she keeps getting injured. And he really believes in stuffed animals, and he gives out stuffed animals to kids who are healing. And pretty much all of Sophie's friends have stuffed animals.
All of them except for Tam and Lynn.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, and he's really kind too. He's really nice. And that's all the really important details that we want to tell you about this. We're not going to spoil anything else. So you can read the book series yourself if you want to know more. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.